It seems like we were talking about this read-along forever, but now that it is underway and we are one quarter done, it's time for us to talk a little Greatcoats with Traitor's Blade. There are two words you must be very careful about ever saying aloud: tyrant and traitor, because those two words often go together, and usually with terrible results. We had been heroes for a little while, and now we were just traitors with no allies and no purpose. The first law states that men are free, but without freedom to choose, men cannot serve their heart. And without their heart, they cannot serve their gods or saints or their king. That's what being free means. Not the right to go wherever you want, but the right to take a stand and say what it is you'll die for. My name is Brasty Goodbow, and I am the king's arrow. My name is Kest of Luth, son of Morrow the swordsmith, and I am the king's blade. And I am Falcio Belmond of Bertine, and I am the king's heart. We are Greatcoats, and that has to mean something. Hey, what's up, bookworms and Tratari? Mike back today to talk a little Traitor's Blade by Sebastien De Castell. This is book number 1 in his Greatcoats series. It is part of the channel read-along. If you don't know that by now, I'll drop that info here for you, because guys, this is a really quick read. It is still plenty of time for you to jump on board, but this is going to be a review for the first book in the series. It is going to be non-spoiler. I'll give my spoiler thoughts at the end. If you want to join the read-along, please do so. Jump on the Discord. The link is in the description below. I'll also link the series if you want to buy the series. It is really cheap on Kindle right now. And like I said, this is a quick read. If you guys want to catch up, it's not too late. But this is going to be the format going forward for this read-along. Is we have the one book per month, and then I'll do the review at the end of the month. But again, on the Discord, we haven't stopped discussing it for the entire month of August, and we are looking forward to starting book number 2. But let's get into this one. The first book here, Traitor's Blade, was released in 2014. I picked this for the channel read-along because it seemed really accessible, a good entry point, not, as adult fiction, but not quite to the point where it was just like a stupid, easy read, but also something not overly complicated. And also very cheap. Like I said, $14 on Kindle for the entire series. I didn't have a problem asking people to climb on board for a reread when it was that cheap. And also a practice run for our Malazan read-along coming next year. But this series was sold to me as The Three Musketeers, written by Joe Abercrombie. Did it live up to that billing? Well, let's talk about it. And that means we have to start first with, what is it about? Now guys, the Greatcoats, they are a traveling pack of magistrates bringing justice to all, or at least they were. They watched the dukes impale their king's head on a spike, and now Tristia is on the verge of collapse, and the barbarians are sniffing at the borders. The dukes bring chaos to the land, while the Greatcoats are scattered far and wide, reviled as traitors. Their legendary coats are now in tatters. Falcio, Kest, and Brasty have reduced themselves to working as mercenaries, but when they find their employer dead and are forced to watch as the killer plants evidence framing them for murder, they realize things are about to get even worse. All they have left are promises they made to King Palus to carry out one final mission. But if they have any hope of filling the king's dreams, the divided Greatcoats must reunite, or they will have to stand aside and watch as their world burns. Now, as always, guys, that's very vague for a reason. I feel like that's a pretty good hopping on point. It kind of gives you the idea that this book is somewhat of a mystery. It's just somewhat of maybe a redemption tour. I don't know. Let's get into it. That means it's time to talk about what makes it good or bad. Now, I always like to start with the good here, and I feel like there's way more good with this book than bad, especially for a first-time author. Now, the good here, obviously, is the banter. It is top notch. Anytime Falcio, Kest, or Brasty are talking to each other, the pages just fly by. It's so good. Anytime they're together, it's just absolute brilliant. I cannot get enough of the way that they talk to each other. Then together, how they interact, how much you can tell that they care about each other, that they've been there for each other. And also, much like guy talk, they like to give each other crap. And that's something that, obviously I'm going to relate to. Also, the action sequences on this are next level. I don't know if this is true or not. I have heard that Sebastien De Castell was actually a choreographer before he became a writer. And I can see that that's true because the way the sword fighting is described in this, I can't think of very many others. I mean, this isn't like, squatting crab meets spinning turtle or something like that where it kind of leaves up to your imagination. He actually describes it beat by beat, and it's almost like some kind of dance. It's beautiful. It's absolutely wonderful. And every sword fight in this book, you just want to reread it again because it's that good. And it didn't let up the entire book. I thought every time there was any kind of action in this, it was just straight in your mind's eye like you were watching a movie. Wonderful, wonderful way that he writes action. And I look forward to more of that. Then there's the mystery. I talked about the mystery. There's the mystery of who this woman from the prologue is. And you kind of have your ideas going on, but you're questioning those several times through the book. Okay, well, you try to do the Scooby-Doo method where you think, okay, well, the first person that shows up that meets this criteria, that's going to be the bad guy. That might work, that might not. I'm not going to confirm or deny that for you. Just know I did actually guess it, but I did start to waver on that guess a little bit later. But the flashbacks in this, I feel like the flashbacks are done right. I usually am not crazy about a ton of flashbacks. I know that sounds weird when I just talked about The Shadow of What Was Lost. And that book is basically 1/3 of it is flashbacks, and the sequel is even worse. And I talked about how much I'm enjoying those books. But if you watch my Lies of Locke Lamore review, I said I felt like the same things I'm talking about here. I thought that the action was good. I thought the banter was terrific. I thought the structure was a disaster because I didn't like the pacing. I didn't like every time it forced me into a flashback. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm really liking the flashbacks, but I'm not liking the present day stuff. And every time I thought it was really getting good, they'd flip me into another one. With this, it is balanced perfectly. And this is probably a very, very unpopular opinion, but this is the book I wanted Lies of Locke Lamore to be. Take that for what it is. If you love Lies of Locke Lamore, man, that's super. To me, the problems with that book were structure. Again, watch that review. I explain very much in there. I mean, how do you do flashbacks and not get annoying? Pace them wonderfully. And I think that he does it. It never feels like you're being taken out of the fun. You're never being taken away from the action. And it never feels like, oh, God, I got to get through another flashback. Or, oh, man, I want to see what's going on in present time. The pacing is perfect. So I don't know if I props to the editor or props to De Castell here, but it is wonderfully paced. And I can't say enough about that. Now, there are a couple of bad things here. I do feel like the first-person narrative kind of screws some of the other characters. And what I mean by that, and I always complain about first-person. I mean, you can go back to my Red Rising reviews, books I love, and I still am upset about the first-person narrative because I feel like it keeps a lot of side characters from getting developed well. And with this, like I said, I love it when those three characters are together, but there is a part where Falkio goes off on his own, and you don't see those characters for a little while. And I feel like it suffers for that. Because I want to know more about those characters. And I'm hoping this is something in the sequel. Like I said, you can feel like this is a very, very streamlined book. There's no fat. It's very lean. It's very quick. But you see that the rest of the books in the series are pretty meaty by comparison. So I'm hoping that I'll have that gripe actually remedied in the future. But that is something that kind of brings it down this. When it just comes with kind of like a full-on first-person POV of just Falkio, I feel like the story was just okay. When the three of them are together, soars. It just soars. I also think it's not as detailed as it could have been. There's a lot of things where I'm like, that happened really quick. But again, these are things you can tell that maybe as the series goes along, looking at the size of those books, I'm going to get these fixed later. Again, this is a very good setup for a first book. But I do think if you're putting on the book review goggles here and you're trying to nitpick, I mean, that's what book reviewing requires. I think that's, there are some things I've been like, well, I could have used a better explanation for that. Look for spoilers for one of those really, really big ones. And I think it feels a little derivative sometimes of Three Musketeers. I love Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. I love it. I love everything about it. But I mean, it's almost like you could look at an outline of that and be like, okay, I can tell he liked this story because it really feels like a more mature adult version of Three Musketeers, and very, very many things other than just there's three guys who like to fight with swords. I really see a lot of the same beats, but again, that's not bad, and I don't think we're not talking about like the first book of Shannara to Lord of the Rings here. We're not talking about something like that derivative. I just think that there are a lot of the exact same beats, and I kind of saw them coming. You know, there's one more thing I forgot to talk about in the whole what makes it good or bad, and that is this method that could really backfire if you do it wrong. And that is almost like breaking the fourth wall, where Falkio kind of almost stops the story to talk to the reader. That's something that could backfire really, really bad if it's not written well. Thankfully, Mr. De Castell can write, and it was done very, very well. Almost in a way kind of like a more playful, obviously, but like Frank in House of Cards, how he'd stop and kind of talk to the camera. I almost feel like it was sort of like that. It was done well. It's not to the point where it's just like humorous like a Deadpool doing it, but it's also not the point where it's just quite as dark as like Frank Underwood doing it. Somewhere right in between those. I thought that was a really, really well done mechanic, and I hope that he actually keeps that one going forward. But again, guys, the good far outweighs the bad in this one, but you know, I didn't want to just kind of like ignore those things because I enjoyed this book quite so much. Let's get into why I think that you should read it. First off, because you can still join our read-along, like I said. Even though I know you're like, oh, okay, well, you're already a month in. Just because you don't start on the 1st of September doesn't mean you can't join the read-along. It doesn't look like these are going to be really difficult reads. Even the slowest readers said they finished Traitor's Blade in like 5 days. So I really don't think that it's a bad thing for you to catch up. We're not finished until November. August, September, October, November. Yeah, we're not finished until November. Trying to get it done right before Rhythm of War comes out by Sanderson. But I think it's fine. You can probably catch up, even if you're not even the quickest reader. It seems like they are very, very quick reads. So that would be my first one, obviously, for selfish reasons, because I'd love to talk to you guys even more. But also, like I said, it doesn't seem too heavy, but it's also adult fiction. If you're looking for YA stuff here, you'll realize by about the 3rd paragraph that that's not going to happen. There is a lot of bad language. There is some violence. There is some really disturbing stuff. There is a lot of sexual content. All those kind of things that I can see where the Joe Abercrombie comparisons come from. No, this isn't Grimdark. So do I think that comparison was apt? Not quite. Very much on the Three Musketeers part, I can see feeling the Joe Abercrombie vibes. If you go in expecting like First Law, you're going to be disappointed. It's never near that dreary. But I can see where that comparison comes from. I can't think of another comparison really to say similar to that. But the Three Musketeers, but very adult fiction. I'll put it that way. Again, like I said, I would not recommend this for readers under like 13 because there are a lot of situations. Let's put it like that. Really, again, it just depends on you. If your kids read stuff like that, that's, hey man, awesome. My kid watches scary movies. He's 8, so what do I know about this stuff? What else? Look, likable characters, big moments, swashbuckling action. I can't talk enough about that action, how good it is, how good the dialogue is, and the big moments in this are really, really big moments. They have really, really high highs. I love that. Really high highs. And again, even the parts of the book that I would be kind of like on, never once felt like, oh God, this is feeling like a sludge. Never. It's a very, very smooth read. And I think you're going to enjoy it. Now look, a couple of final thoughts here. If not for the read-along, I probably would have blown through this whole thing in August. I wouldn't have picked up Lycanius like I did because I would have been reading this series. The way the first book ends, I feel like it's okay enough to where you could stop, but you want to keep going. It's nowhere like a cliffhanger where you're like, I got to pick up book 2 immediately, but you want to. You want to because you had such a good time with this first book. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which you know is about as high as I gave all the John Gwynne books 4 stars. And you know how guys know how much I love those. I put it right up there with it. I had a great time with this. I love the introduction to this world. I love the 3 main characters. I love the young female lead, Aline. Is it Aline? I'm saying Aline. Really, really good. I just love all their interactions with each other. It's a good time. It's a good time, and I think that if you pick it up and check it out, you will like it too. And then, like I said, join our Discord, join the read-along, hop on board with us because it is a lot more fun to talk about these things when someone's reading the exact same thing as you. At least I think so. Like I said, I'm reading Lycanius right now, and no one else is reading it. It's a bummer. I can't find anybody to talk to. Okay, I'm going to move into some spoiler thoughts now because I have a couple. But just know this isn't like a beat for beat thing like I do on like a recap video or something like that. Not like that. Just some spoiler thoughts that I want to talk about. And that is starting now. Okay. First, punch, pull, slap. That is great. I do something similar with my kids. They'll hurt themselves. They're like, oh, God, oh, I hurt my toe or something like that. And I'll be like, oh, okay, well, let me see your finger. And you'll like pop their knuckle. And they'll be like, oh, I'll be like, you ain't thinking about your toe anymore, right? It might not be the best form of parenting, but you know what? I do what I can, right? Or I joke with them that I'm going to get the saw and take it off. It's just dad stuff, Anyhow, I laughed. I thought it was very, very funny. Right off the way, like I said, I felt like it endeared you to those three characters like right away. And that was very important when you're introducing a new world like this to get you on board with these characters, especially when there's more than one. I feel like singing while having a sword fight feels like it's the highest level of trolling, but somehow it works. Somehow I don't feel like this is okay. This just went into like a Disney musical. I never feel like that. I feel like it makes sense, almost like if a bunch of friends got drunk together and were drinking and then they started singing. I don't feel like it's just more like camaraderie than it is like trolling the enemy. At least that's the way I look at it. But when I first read it, I was like, man, you are just like, that's like you're playing basketball and dunking on your kids or something. Like you're just being like a jerk about it. Hard to keep calling a book fun. And that's why I said this book a lot. Fun. It was a lot of fun. And it feels weird to use that word a lot when this book had child abuse, rape, and murder in the first 5 chapters, right? I mean, that 5th chapter was like, okay, this may not be as bleak as Abercrombie, but it isn't exactly like happy time. We are definitely going dark in this first book, and it makes me excited for what's to come because, as you guys know, when it comes to Grimdark, I'm like, feed me more. I think it's every bit as if you consider Liza Locklamora Grimdark, I think you'll consider this Grimdark. I didn't think it was, but I say that the levels of violence and content are about on the same level with that. So I know that Liza Locklamora is going to come up a lot because it's a similar kind of story, especially told through the flashbacks. But like I said, I felt like this is what I wanted Liza Locklamora to be, and it helped a lot because of those dark moments. I loved the flashbacks with Palis and Falcio. I was endeared to this king almost right away, seeing that he's actually one of the good dudes. He's actually bringing about real change to the kingdom. It makes it even more heartbreaking when you know off the bat this guy isn't going to make it. And but again, I don't feel like any of those flashbacks are a letdown. I feel like they're wonderful, and I look forward to those. Every one of them were really, really great. And while I may not have figured out his, I forget what the word that they used to find whatever he left behind. I forget the jewel term that he used in the book. But I didn't figure it out. My wife figured it out really quick, and of course she made fun of me because I didn't figure it out. Like I always tell you guys, I'm a along for the ride kind of reader, so I didn't really figure that out. I was more concerned about who the mystery woman in the first chapter was. So I think maybe I just kind of looked past that. But yeah, just a really great character. It just sucks, like I said, knowing that he isn't going to make it. I did guess that Trin was the mystery sorceress or whatever from the prologue. I think there was a prologue. I think it was just chapter 1, wasn't it? I figured it off way early, and I think that's, like I said, just because I was using the Scooby-Doo method. I was like, okay, well, the first mysterious woman I find, that's who it's going to be. So I knew right away it wasn't Valiana. But I suspected Trin. I started to kind of think maybe it was Ethalia by the end, which I'll get into for a second, just because I have no idea what the Ethalia chapter was supposed to be in this book. But jumping ahead there, so while I was right on Trin, I was way off on Valiana and her actual lineage. I did not expect that at all, and I did not expect them to take a character that was very, very brash at first to actually become likable at the end. So good job, Mr. Castell there. That is very, very... Is it Mr. Castell or Mr. De Castell? I don't know. He's going to be coming on the channel when we're done with the series, by the way, so I'll get to ask him, how do I say your name? Is it Castell or De Castell? Anyhow, Lorenzo. Man, Lorenzo was a basic bitch, and I think that he deserved everything he got. Like, my wife was kind of like, he didn't have to, quite troll him that hard. Yeah, he did. That kid needed to be taught a lesson. This kid was every bit how I felt about Rafe in the Faithful and the Fallen series. That kid deserved everything that he got. He asked for it. So yeah, basic bitch. The Duchess felt like she was kind of over the top, and I'm glad that she's only going to kind of be a one-book villain. because I didn't need 4 books. I mean, she just felt almost kind of like mustache twirling bad guy, like I'm just evil for no reason at all. So I'm glad that was just kind of a one-off. Obviously, the Duke is going to be the big bad. I think, who knows? Yeah, again, the tractor with the horses, man, that is messed up stuff. Okay, Ethalia. What? I almost felt like I had missed a chapter. I was flipping back and be like, did I skip a page and I missed something? Because I have no idea what this chapter is. She's like a rapey dream witch. I have no idea what this character was all about. I have to assume that this is stuff that's going to be explained in the next books, because I don't know what this was. Because I felt like right now you take it out of this book and it doesn't really change a lot. But yeah, it was real rapey. It felt like in The Witcher when Triss is just real rapey, and it's just like, why is this here? I hope we get an explanation, because I don't feel like he put something in here like this for it to be like nothing. So I look forward to getting an explanation for that. Aline is going to be the big character arc for this series, I guess. This is going to be our coming of age character, obviously. Brassy has kind of taken her under his wing, and the scenes with the invisible arrow is just really fun. I enjoyed those, and I love the whole getting the backstory on a character while they're kind of like passing that knowledge forward. I think that's a beautiful way to really develop a character. So my biggest thing is, I said, okay, I got a lot of Falkio backstory in this, a lot. What I need to know is some backstory on Kest and Brassy in the next 2 books. So I don't know necessarily that he's going to switch point of views. I don't know, but I hope we get a lot more on those characters going forward. And Taylor is a witch, right? I mean, that's the only explanation I have for Taylor. And the whole Berserker thing, I don't know if it was my wife or someone on the Discord who actually has this theory that Falkio's whole Berserker mode is that he's actually the one that killed his own wife with the axe, and he's just blocked it out because of his Berserker rage. So there's something to think about. But yeah, that's about all I got, guys. Drop in the comments, let me know what you guys thought about the Traitor's Blade, because I had a blast with it. And that is where we will leave it, and I will talk to you guys as we start Night Shadow tomorrow. So talk to you there.